Okay, discipline number 4. We're paying attention to ourselves. These are the mindfulness disciplines. And so this one has a capacity to really help us deepen into an awareness of what's going on with us about things that we are largely not conscious of. When we're born, one of the things we do is we develop a sense of ourselves as separate from the world around us. We develop a separate self-sense. And in that way that we structure our relationship with each other, we have to figure out how do we mediate between self and not self, and things can be overwhelming. And so we do things to self-soothe. We hug our blanket, we suck our thumb, we go to sleep. There's various things that we do in order to learn how to calm ourselves. We don't automatically know how to do that. Our parents help to calm us, hopefully, right? So we learn certain self-soothing techniques when we're upset. As we grow up, we get better and better at knowing what it is to do and how it is that we show up in the world, and we get to where there's fewer and fewer things that bother us, and yet sometimes we get troubled, we get anxious. Anxiety can be a sensation, but it's largely the emotion that arises for us when we seem to be wanting two opposite things at the same time. When I want to tell my boss off, but I want to keep my job. I'm stuck. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of pulled between two things. And so anxiety is sort of this buzzing between this and that, on and off. And we can actually feel it as a buzzing sensation within ourselves. Hard to function that way. So we have to be able to distract ourselves from the anxiety. I can't pay attention to that right now. I've got something else that I need to do. And so we do things that will soothe ourselves such that we can take care of what we need to take care of. In general, the things that we do to soothe, either by their intensity are so distracting, or by their very nature, they're sort of numbing. So now we're going to feel less anxious. The problem is that these things work in the short run, but they don't actually solve the anxiety in the long run. So we can get really accustomed to doing the things that are self-soothing without ever really noticing that we're anxious, or especially what it is we're anxious about. So I may have had a really hard time at work, so I'm going to stop off and have a few beers with my buddies, and I get home and it's late, and my wife was wondering what happened. Why didn't you call? Dinner's cold. We get into a fight. I sleep on the couch. I get up in the morning. I'm having a really bad day at work now, so this afternoon I'm really going to get drunk with my buddies. Turns out, getting drunk with my buddies does not solve the problem. I may be feeling really poor. I don't have enough money. I like this feeling of, being a high roller. But when I go to the boat, and sometimes I might get some money, So I got $100. I'm going to go to the boat. I'm going to play blackjack, right? And I could take that $100 and I turn it into 150, and then I turn it into 200, and I turn it into 300, and I turn it into 200 and 150 and 50, and it's gone. Oh shit! I had $300. I'm going to go to the ATM. I'll take out another $50 and see if I can go get it. That's called a gambling addiction. So our addictions are things that we do to self-soothe that get bad enough that we notice, oh, this is a problematic behavior, and so we label it an addiction. But everybody self-soothes. We all get anxious. We all do things to self-soothe. Most people don't go to 12-step groups because of a TV addiction, but there are a lot of TV addicts, or video game addicts, or pornography addicts, or there's all kinds of things that we can get addicted to because they work to soothe us. So this discipline, the basic idea of this discipline is for you to discover what is it that you do to self-soothe. Do you go shopping? Do you chew your fingernails? What is it? Because it's there. You're going to be anxious. You're going to do things to self-soothe. It may be that what you do when you're anxious is you take a walk. And it turns out if you're not walking down the middle of the street or something like that, that becomes a very effective thing for you to do. It works. There are very few walking addicts. There's some exercise addicts, but it may be that what you're doing really works for you. Great. Do more of it when you need it. Notice when you need it. But notice when you need it. Notice when you're doing the thing to self-soothe, what are you anxious about? So the basic idea of this fourth discipline is to, first of all, notice what are the things you do to soothe yourself when you're anxious. Just kind of be aware of what are those things, what are the strategies that you have to self-soothe. You've got them. Everybody feels anxious. We all have learned how to soothe ourselves. What do you do? And notice when you do it, am I anxious? What would that be about? So for example, one of common things people self-soothe with is food. Food soothing. Am I hungry? Am I eating because I'm hungry? Or am I eating because I feel bad? I feel empty. Learn to pay attention and to notice what is this about. Notice what you do to self-soothe with the idea that you're going to stop yourself from soothing yourself until you notice what you're anxious about. One very effective way for people to quit smoking, because nicotine's really good at soothing anxiety. So anxious people smoke to soothe their anxiety. But if you're a smoker and you're reaching for a cigarette, before you light the cigarette, take a moment and say, okay, what am I anxious about right now? What do I notice coming up for me? Make a list. What are the things that, what can be bothering me now? If it gets too overwhelming, you can light the cigarette. Right? You can do the things that self-soothe so that you can get on with your life. But don't waste that moment before you self-soothe without noticing, okay, what's making me anxious? Where is this coming from? Okay, and this is going to lead into what we're going to do in the next discipline, the fifth discipline, about having a self-care routine. That noticing that point when I'm no longer acting in a way that is actually in my long-term best interest. All right, so pay attention to what you do to self-soothe. Notice when you do it. And at that point, notice what you're anxious about. All right, great.